Noreen and welcome to my kitchen. The last time that I made those bacon burgers and I showed the caramelized onions, I had so many requests to show how to caramelize onions that today we're making some burgers on the grill, and we always, well, not always, but we often will have caramelized onions with our burgers because it's one of our favorite accompaniments. So I thought since I was making them anyway, I would go ahead and show you how I caramelize onions. I've had a lot of people ask me recently if I have any formal culinary training, if I was trained as a chef, and the answer is no. I am a home cook who spent a lot of my youth watching Julia Child, Graham Kerr, and great chefs of fill in the blank. And I have spent an inordinate amount of time with an extreme passion for cooking. So that is how I have learned how to do what I do. So basically, what you do, I have 4 large Vidalia onions here. And I melted a stick of butter in my skillet. Now, what you're going to say, and what Rick is going to say, is your skillet is too small for the amount of onions that you have in it. And I am going to say, no, it isn't. Because the bottom line here is these onions are going to cook down to less than half of the amount of onions that you see here. And that is exactly what you want to do. The other very important thing, you must use butter. You must use real butter. You should not ever use margarine or oil to caramelize your onions, and that is because your onions will not caramelize if you don't use butter. Your onions will just steam, and they will wilt, and they will boil in oil. They won't turn a lovely shade of brown, which is what you're going for. Now, we have 3 people in our family who enjoy these. Any leftovers you can easily store in a jar. And this, half of this large onion here, I'm actually going to put back in the fridge and save it for another thing. I have a teaspoon of salt. And my heat is on medium-high. And all we're going to do is we're going to toss these onions in this pan, and we're not going to cover it, and we're going to let them cook. It's going to take between 20 and 30 minutes for these onions to caramelize. This is not something that you can do quickly. It's something that takes time and patience. So if you want to caramelize onions for your hamburgers, you need to make sure that you get these going before you put your burgers on the grill, because these will take longer than your burgers. And yes, I know they're falling out of the pan, but it's all good because these are going to be fine in the end. So just give it a little time. What I'm going to do is, we have one other step. We're going to add about a teaspoon of sugar into this pan, but we're not going to do it until these onions are nearly finished. And they're going to be very soft, and they're going to be very cooked, and they're almost going to be brown. When we put the sugar in here, and it's going to mix with the butter, and that's when the caramelization is going to happen, and the magic is going to happen, and it's all going to be beautiful and delicious and wonderful. And when that happens, we'll be back. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes, and I just wanted you to see what they look like. You see there's a lot of liquid. The water is cooking out of the onions, and we want that to evaporate before we add the sugar. So what you hear is bubble, 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 not sizzle, 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 sizzle. You don't want to add the sugar until you hear this start to sizzle, which means that the majority of the water has evaporated and the butter is then taking over and starting to do its job. So when it's time to put the sugar in, I'll be back. It's going to take at least another 10 minutes for that to happen. Okay, we're back. It has been another 10 minutes, and it's sizzling. You can see the majority of the water has evaporated from this pan. So now we're dealing with butter and onions exclusively. You can also see that the onions have started to turn a lovely shade of brown. We're almost where we want them to be. But I'm going to expedite the process just a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of sugar, like less than a teaspoon. I put a teaspoon in there. We're going to start out with just a little bit. These are Vidalia onions, so they're already very sweet, and they are already high in their own little oniony sugar content. So we probably don't want to add too much sugar because we don't want to candy the onions. We want to caramelize the onions. So what we're going to do now is we're going to tend these. Every few minutes we're going to come over here and we're going to stir them and flip them over from the bottom and then spread them back out again. And then when you'll see them, you'll see what they look like when they're totally finished, and they'll be beautiful and brown and caramelized, exactly what you want them to look like. And we're going to put them on our barbecue burgers, and everybody is going to be happy tonight. Molly actually eats these like a side dish, and she eats them with ketchup on them, but you know, you can't account for a teenager's taste buds, right? So as long as we have ketchup and ranch dressing, teenagers will eat just about anything. So anyway, we'll be back when these are done. Okay, here we are. Another 10 minutes has passed, and this is what our onions look like. Exactly how you want them. They're beautiful, they're soft, they're caramelized, and they're delicious. So that is how you caramelize onions. It's really not as mysterious as some people think, but it takes time and patience. That's the thing that I have to stress the most, is you cannot caramelize onions quickly. You have to be patient, and you have to take your time. Otherwise, what you'll end up with is a burnt onion on the outside, a raw onion on the inside. These are soft and delicious, and they're perfect.
They're so good.
And these are great on burgers. These are great on a steak with some sauteed mushrooms. And these are excellent spread on top of a freshly baked focaccia bread that is seasoned with garlic and rosemary and Italian seasonings and sprinkled with either feta cheese or goat cheese. And then just let that cheese melt in with this caramelized onion. That is something I will do in the future for you. They are amazing. These caramelized onions can keep in a shallow dish in your refrigerator for a few days if you have leftovers, and you can just heat them back up in a frying pan and use them as you wish. So I hope you try this now that you know how to do it. I hope that you love it, because I know that you're going to. And I definitely want you to try it. I don't want you to be afraid of it, because it's not that hard. It's super easy. The main ingredient is patience. So I hope you try it. I hope you love it. And thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen this evening. I hope that you try and caramelize onions sometime soon. And until next time, I'll see ya.